years on. So do you understand why I have a concern? We need housing. We don't need a research park in Depot District. We need housing more. So focus on the housing issue on State Street, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Any other cards? Anyone else wishes to speak? Okay, great. Great. Would you please state your name?
Yes, I will. Cristobal Villegas, he, him, they, them. So I'm a local community member. I just want to recommend something. I've been out of town actually for 2 weeks. It's been quiet. And coming back, I've been reading a really good book, The Color of Law. It's about zoning. It's about racism. It's about systemic oppression of how homes being built in different areas can lead to more suppression throughout generations. And intriguingly, it's been very fascinating, kind of juxtaposing in the book and the examples they're citing and the things that have been happening and have happened here in Salt Lake City. I'm reading more into it. I'll give you some more details later as I'm done. But regarding the RDA budget, it is very important to understand that the money that we spend now, how it will affect the 10 years, 20 years. And of course, you're like, well, of course it does. But what's really fascinating, at least from the chapters I've been reading, zoning, from the initial basis of what zoning is, was meant to segregate black and non-black, white and non-white bodies in different parts of the United States. So lots of, I don't remember a few sessions ago when I came, and we talked about the redlining and talked about single room occupancy, where they're being built and where it has been built. And Salt Lake City actually has historical redlining districts, and why they're next to busing and other transportation, public transportation areas. So, yeah, regarding this budget, I've been gone, so I haven't really been looking into it, but just this fascination of how this book, Color of Law, really does intersect with how we do things in Salt Lake City. I would just recommend you all, during this next year, look into that, look into some synopsis or whatever, and understand that what we do now definitely has a racial impact in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Villegas. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right. Nobody else wishes to speak? I will
Madam
look for a
Chair,
motion.
I move that the board close this public hearing and refer the item to a future date for action.
Second.
All right. It's been moved by Board Member Mendenhall and seconded by Board Member Wharton. Is there any discussion? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have no other RDA business. This RDA meeting stands adjourned. Moving on. All right. Next, we are at the public hearing portion of our council meeting agenda. And B1 is regarding an ordinance amending the final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Madam Chair, I think we need to approve the meeting minutes first of May, or am I on the wrong page? Nope, yeah, the meeting minutes of May 21st, 2019.
Good catch. Sorry. So it's been moved by Councilmember Mendenhall and seconded by Rogers.
It doesn't matter today for me.
And seconded by Councilmember Mendenhall that we approve the minutes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And I would like to turn time over to Councilmember Wharton to make a comment.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So just prior to, I know a lot of people are here today to comment about the 4th Avenue well, which has been an important issue that's come up in District 3, but is an important issue for the whole city of Salt Lake. In our conversations, the council absolutely recognizes the health issues related to the Fourth Avenue well, the importance of the water supply, and the safety concerns of the existing facility. But I'm also happy to report that in a straw poll, which we took during just immediately before this meeting in our work session, the council unanimously agreed that the funding for the Fourth Avenue well will be contingent upon the Department of Public Utilities coming back to brief the council on the alternatives that have been considered to reduce the size of the building and reduce noise concerns. The briefing will be scheduled as soon as the department is ready to move forward. And as part of this, the council has also specifically asked that an outside engineer resource be identified to identify possible alternatives that would result in a smaller and quieter facility through building design, footprint alterations, and then report back on their feedback, as well as feedback from the public. So, if you take that in mind as you're making your comments, but thank you for being here today, and thank you to all of the residents who reached out to us on this important issue.
Thank you, Mr. Wharton. So I'm just going to reiterate.
Madam Chair, can I have
Yes.
a moment just to follow up with Councilmember Wharton? So in essence, what does that mean, Councilmember Wharton, that before anything is done, that the council, that the administration has to bring back alternative planning, things that were looked at, every type of option so that we can have a good base to value off of? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the funding will be available, will be made available once the administration, the department comes back to us with that information. And specifically, we're looking for a design that has a smaller footprint and is quieter overall.
Because from all the emails that we've received, I know that it's been size, it's been noise, it's been the issue with, going from an inline pump to above ground pump, and I know that's state issue, that's legality issue. So I'm grateful to Councilmember Wharton for your diligence in getting this taken care of. It's a huge deal. I mean, for all members, everybody loves Memory Grove, right? They know exactly where it is. It's historic, so I appreciate Councilmember Wharton leading out on this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'll also remind people that there's still going to be a hearing before the Historic Landmarks Commission. That will take place on Thursday at 5:30, right across the hall and in that room. And you're still, that's still on the agenda. You can still go forward and make comments related to the Historic Landmarks Commission and the appearance of the structure.
Any other discussion or comments? All right. Reiterate that we are at item B1, which is regarding an ordinance amending the final budget of Salt Lake City, including the employment staffing document for fiscal year 2018-2019. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? All right, and Stephanie Suval would like to speak to us.
Thank you again for giving me an opportunity to speak about a place that means so much to me. My real wish is there would be no building at all, but I have no say of that. That little Fourth Avenue Park is a portal to Memory Grove. Oh, my mic?
Would you mind coming closer to the microphone so we can hear you?
Should I
Thank you.
start over?
Sure. It's just,
Okay, I'll begin again. I'll even be better.
there you go.
Okay, so thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak about this very special place, not only for me, but for everyone. And for me, it's not only a park where I go to recreate and to be around peace and a harmonious blend of nature and neighborhood, but it's a portal to Memory Grove. And I know there are many entrances to Memory Grove, but for me, and I think I can speak for others, there's something about this Fourth Avenue Park that whenever I'm psychologically down and I need to be revitalized, I enter Memory Grove from that park. And I park there, and I look at the bridges, and I look at the homes, and I look at the well, And I just wish that I wish that you could try to find an alternative and not have a building there, and not have chlorine, and have an underground well. And listen to carefully, and I know you do, I can tell, to Winston and Alan, that they know. And so I hope my wish comes true. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Subal. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Nope. All right. Nobody else wishes to speak. I look for a motion. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you.
Madam Chair, I might make a clarification because I don't want people to think that they should speak now if they want to speak about the well. I think there might have been a confusion in that card.
Okay.
The Fourth Avenue well relates to the annual budget, which is not this particular public hearing item. This is the budget amendment public hearing, which deals with a host of other things. But, you know, there's not a legal problem. Oops, sorry, my 2 minutes are up. There's not a legal problem accepting comment, you know, at any point, but it might be more appropriate if the comments are about the Fourth Avenue well to make them during the annual budget public hearing, if that's okay. So, do you want to speak about the budget amendment?
I'm here to speak regarding the Fourth Avenue well. So if it's inappropriate, I can come back, but I'd quickly just like to wholeheartedly voice my opposition to that. What a lovely, lovely little park, and I just hate to see what's going on there. I'd like to keep it as it is, or find another place which is much more suitable. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Sorry. Any other members of the public who wish to speak about the Fourth Avenue well? Our staff, Cindy Lou, if you could raise your hand, can give you a card and you can fill it out and we'll keep it. Cindy Lou can give you a card and you can fill out your name and we'll keep it for the Fourth Avenue well public hearing, which will be part of the annual budget public hearing. In 2 items. Tonight. It's tonight. It's just later in the agenda.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. Therefore, if nobody else wishes to speak to the budget amendment number 6 for fiscal year 2018-19, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair. I move that the council close the public hearing and refer the item to a future date for action.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Fowler and seconded by Councilmember Rogers. Is there any discussion, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Next city council public hearing is regarding an ordinance amending section 14.52.030 of the Salt Lake City Code pertaining to the disposition process of city-owned alleys. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to this item? All right, Mr. George Chapman.
Going from 80% to 75% is a good idea. Aaron, I know you had concerns about it, and I know Lynn Schwartz from the Sugar House Community Council sent you something concerning about it, but the reality is all of the community councils in that area, East Liberty Park, East Bench, Sugar House, Liberty Wells, and Ballpark, all of them have problems with, especially since Operation Rio Grande, or Operation Leaf Blower, with homeless in the alleyways. So there's been a big push to try and close some of the alleyways, and 75% is not that much of a problem, because you still have to go through all of the planning requirements and review, and it makes sense. The whole idea is to stop the alleyways from being used as a gathering place for homeless. We have it in our area. East Liberty Park, a lot of the alleyways end up with homeless there. So we have to clean them out. There was a guy in Ballpark who had to rent a big dumpster to clean out his alleyway. That's how bad it is. So 75%, I encourage you to approve it. You still have to go through the review with Planning and Planning Commission, but 75% is a start. If there are problems, you'll find out and you can change it later. But you need to make it easier to go into and close the alleyways from criminal activity. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak to this item? All right. Nobody else wishes to speak. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close this public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Is it? Whoa, okay. It's been moved by City Council Member Mendenhall and seconded by Council Member Johnston. Is there any other discussion? Nope. Oh, seeing none. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. City Council third public hearing is regarding an ordinance amending the table of permitted and conditional uses for downtown districts in section 21A.33.050 pertaining to self-storage. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this matter? Nobody wishes to speak. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and adopt an ordinance that would allow self-storage facilities in the D1 zoning district.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Mendenhall and seconded by Councilmember Wharton. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Next, ordinances listed below, B4 through B13, are associated with the implementation of the mayor's recommended budget for Salt Lake City, including the library fund for the fiscal year 2019-20. All ordinances were heard as one public hearing item during the May 21st public hearing, and again today, June 4th, as one public hearing. Do I need to list all of them?
Nope.
All right. All right. Is there anybody who would like to speak to any of,
Should have a bunch of cards.
bunch of cards? Okay, and this is the one where the fourth.
This is it.
This is it. All right. All right.
This would be the appropriate time to comment on anything relating to the annual budget. So
Okay.
Fourth Avenue Well, fee increases, anything else.
All right. So we would call Stan Holmes, who wishes to speak. Hi.
Hi, good
welcome.
evening. I'm Stan Holmes, and I live on Capitol Hill in Salt Lake City. Thanks for this opportunity to comment on specific issues of traffic and public safety. I'm here on behalf of the 120 Capitol Hill residents who've already signed a petition calling for traffic safety action by the city. The petition drive began as an effort to slow down the speeding traffic on East Capitol Boulevard. It calls for building raised crosswalks to calm traffic. This is a matter of public safety not only for East Capitol Boulevard families with kids, but also for those on adjacent streets. While collecting signatures across the greater Capitol Hill area, a neighborhood, I discovered that neighbors living from Columbus Street to Ensign Vista Drive were willing to lend their support because they're fed up with the traffic chaos across Capitol Hill. This is about speed racers on Victory Road, Columbus Street, and on East Capitol Boulevard. It's about blocks-long, backed-up traffic on 300 North at Main and at State. The new 5th North traffic light is a Band-Aid on the situation. The city has yet to implement long-term, sensible solutions across the Capitol Hill traffic network. Residents know this all too well. Some neighbors a half mile from East Capitol Boulevard signed our petition so that the city will start taking meaningful action in our area. I told them I'd ask you this evening for a comprehensive Capitol Hill traffic study as a first substantive step towards solving the public and traffic safety mess we currently face. Please, no more flashing speed sign trailers. They're a joke, and they collect no usable data as far as I can tell. And please don't waste police time and energy when simple, concrete measures will do the job 24/7. Of $12.5 million budgeted for street conditions and neighborhood
Time.
safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
All right.
You can continue giving those comments in writing if you'd like, via
Yeah.
email or letter.
And I've already given copies of the petition to Councilman Wharton. I have a full set here of what we've collected so far for the mayor.
Thank you very much.
Who shall I give them to?
You can give them to
Mr. Patrick Leary.
Patrick Leary,
Okay,
or
thank
staff
you.
to give to Patrick Leary.
Now, we would like to call Mr. Webster? I think it's Webster.
It's Jim Webster.
Jim Webster.
I should be somewhat familiar by now. I'd like to comment on 5 items with respect to the budget. One is, and I guess, I hate to say this, but I think we've become a fairly regressive city in a lot of ways. I think it's really unfortunate that the money from permits for solar, for instance, go into the general fund and don't go to Vicky. Vicky has been at the Superfund meetings. Either Vicky or somebody from her staff is at every one of those meetings. I haven't seen anybody else from the city at that function as well, and I think that's an important sustainability issue as well. Another one is the wildfire issue. I've been going to those meetings for about 5 years. I haven't seen any of you, and I haven't seen anybody from the city staff really at those meetings other than the fire department. I think we're creating a situation where we make disincentives for people to use solar, certainly in my case, and you've heard from me on that, and you'll hear again tonight. It's a really unfortunate situation. Other cities, I mean, heaven forbid, even in Texas, they subsidize solar. In Berkeley, they actually pay for it. So we've got a long way to go if we're really thinking that we're a green city with respect to sustainability and solar in itself. To charge $850, which is 10% of, in my case, of the installation costs, and then reduce it to $200, it should be comped. The trash collection situation is another one that is, I think, regressive. It used to be that trash was picked up in a fairly decipherable fashion, and people could project their yearly cleanup and so forth relative to the notices that came out. Now it's on a single person basis, and if you think about the carbon footprint of driving those trucks back and forth for a single person, it really is regressive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webster. I would like to remind the public, actually, one thing that I forgot, that council staff members have parking validations for anyone who parked in the underground library parking garage. So before you leave, if you parked under the parking garage, at the library, please talk to one of the staff members to get a parking validation. Next, we're going to call Ivan Weber. Ivan?
Awesome.
Good evening, thank you.
Welcome.
Ivan Weber, I live in the Lower Avenues and own 2 properties on Canyon Road in the block where the 4th Avenue well is located. And so, in fact, my wife is here. She grew up in 211 Canyon Road, which is even closer to the well. So we have a strong history with the area, and we know the area to be just the essence of what a great residential neighborhood and park environment can be. And now the city proposes to plunk an industrial facility complete with unceasing loud noise and possible waves of toxic odors, with certain waves of maintenance traffic right in the front yard. This is anything but trivial. As I reflect on the historic Erastus Snow House, which we own at 218 Canyon Road, or 217 Canyon Road, sorry, and we also own 218 across the street, it becomes clear that the pump house is an out-and-out intrusion, warranting full compensation for the loss of value of the property. It's flatly the wrong place for this highly engineered, very poorly designed facility. If you were to give this to a basic design class, they wouldn't come up with anything that low on the totem pole. The Hanson, Allen, and Luce report from April, you'll recognize this document, I'm sure, offered 3 alternatives, options, it called them, to abandon the existing well and move to an alternate location. A was 300 feet, less than 300 feet from the well. B was more than 300 feet. Public Utilities did not consider either of those. This is critical. If you
Time.
haven't done that, then you haven't done your homework.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Weber. We would like to call Dwight Marchand. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us here. Whoops, got my notes, I just dropped it. I live in Mill Creek, the city of Mill Creek.
Okay.
And member Weepy is also here with us. Did you want, my address is on there, I guess. Don't need to get that. Anyway, thank you. And first of all, thanks for your service. I know you don't get thanked that often, but it's a big job, and especially providing good water, which you do, provide great product through your water services.
Cheers.
But I have 2 points I'd like to make tonight, if I could. And this is a picture which I'll pass around, if I could have somebody take that, of the disrepair on the corner where I live since last fall, where they repaired the water line. But I understand from our city engineer there are 300 to 400 water breaks in our city in a year. And so it's a lot of work, and I understand that. But the point I'm making is because there are currently 30 to 40 of these holes like this throughout our city, one of them being on my street, another one on the mayor's street, which when they repaired it, it's sunk in again. So anyway, if you could just take note on the service of these holes as Salt Lake City comes in and puts a hole in Mill Creek streets, to pay a little more attention, and I'm sure you'll do that. And then the other item is just to make note that Mill Creek residents pay substantially more than Salt Lake City residents do for their water. And as a result of that, we think because we have no representation to do anything about it on the water board or anything else, we just appeal to your better sense of service in the process. And again, thanks for all that you guys do. I know this is a small matter, but to my neighbors, it means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I have a point of privilege?
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you for your service as well, and welcome to our city council. We've been out to visit your guys' city council a few times, and so it's nice to switch it up a little bit. And so thank you for your service, both of you, and welcome.
All right. We would like to call James Livingston.
First, thank you for the action you took in the work session earlier. I'm James Livingston. I live on Canyon Road in Salt Lake. I have degrees in applied economics and in accounting. Economists and accountants spend their careers assessing costs and benefits. There are 2 kinds of costs and benefits, direct and intangible. Direct are obvious and easily measured, while the word intangible leads some to think that these costs and benefits are imaginary or made up. They are, in fact, very real. They may be difficult to precisely quantify, but they can be reasonably estimated. The cost of air pollution borne by society is an example. Public utilities and their engineers have failed to fully consider intangible costs in their analysis of Fourth Avenue well options. In deciding to go with the current alternative, they only factor in direct costs, such as the cost of the pump house and equipment, versus the cost of relocating the well. Interestingly, they often refer to the intangible benefits of worker and public safety, though they never attempt to quantify these. Like motherhood and apple pie, almost everyone feels good about worker and public safety. But how do you feel about pollution? Specifically, noise pollution in the form of a high-pitched whine from a 450 horsepower electric pump day and night in the summer when you want to be outside. How would you feel about increased maintenance traffic right in front of your home? How would you feel about lost green space and large trees? Speaking of public safety, how would you feel about frequent delivery of toxic chemicals across the street from your home and in the park where your children play? Did you know that if there were a toxic chemical accident at the pump house, that residents living upstream would be trapped with no way to evacuate? How would you feel about a potential decrease in the value of your home? These costs and more will be borne by neighbors of and by everyone who used to enjoy peaceful visits to the park. When all costs are counted, it will be clear that the current proposal is the most and not the least costly option. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Livingston. We would like to invite Tiffany Ente. Good night. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. I have materials for you. Can I hand that to someone to pass out? Oh, great. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening, council members, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you tonight. My name is Tiffany Ente. I am the executive director of the Utah Cultural Trust. We are the organization that is presenting this year's Utah Jazz and Roots Festival in partnership with Excellence in the Community, Jazz SLC, and JAM. The Utah Cultural Trust brought these organizations together when they weren't necessarily interested in partnering with me at first. But luckily they've come around. And I discovered that the Jazz Festival presented did not represent the diversity that this vast city should be recognizing. This is important because jazz is the people's music. It is Black music. It is the voice of the marginalized and anthem for social movements dating back to the 1900s, originating from African slaves brought to this country in the 1500s. Now, I'm not here to give you a history of jazz, but in all things that diverse communities do is preserve and share their traditions through music and storytelling. It is what brings us together, so the significance of this city council and other leadership bodies in Utah supporting not only the arts, but specifically festivals that present jazz, not only honors people of color and their history, but it increases the engagement of the community, as you can see behind me today. So we are here to ask that you continue to support the Jazz Festival by sponsoring the Gallivan Center and showing that the city values events that help the bottom line through tourism. It supports small businesses. And specifically for this festival, we have been committed to presenting diverse programming and seeking out minority-owned businesses for sound, staging, and security.
Time.
So, thank you. We kindly ask that you consider this line item to continue supporting this Jazz Festival. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would like to call Fran Marcus Matson.
After your decision, I had to rewrite this and take out some of my snarky comments. So, thank you. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Fran Marcus, and my husband, brother-in-law, and I all took an oath to honor and defend this country, and we did so proudly. The city provided a place of peace, quiet, and reflection upon the completion of the meditation chapel. And I was worried about keeping that promise with the completion of the new pump house. So thank you for your consideration and keeping the promise to those who have served. I also served during my time in the military as the HAZMAT HAZCOM officer, and I had the misfortune of doing so while the Ogden Defense Depot debacle was going on, which landed on the front page of the Sunday Tribune. I learned more about hazardous chemicals to include chlorine than I ever wanted to know. And if the engineers are telling you that you as the city council and this as the neighborhood, that this chlorine pump is consummately safe and with all certainty, then that is certainly disingenuous. There is no way that they can guarantee that there won't be an accident. Every year I went to hazmat training and we would review CFR 1910's reports by various agencies, catastrophes, well-meaning companies and government agencies, but accidents happen. And the mitigation is a lot less in less densely populated areas. We would go and we would review those accident reports in an attempt to learn from the past and make sure that it didn't happen again.
Time.
Okay.
Thank you, Lieutenant. We would like to call Victoria Walker.
I'm going to get emotional. Thank you very much. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate broker, licensed escrow officer, licensed title officer. I know real estate. I heard that the water department called us NIMBYs, not in my front yard. So we decided not to make the well house something that would affect us personally. We tried to stay away from it. But when the last report that was out said that it didn't affect residential property values, the community asked me to stand forward as a licensed real estate broker and tell you how it does affect our property values. When we purchased our homes, we all purchased it with the 1986 City Creek Master Plan being in place. We don't have covenants and restrictions in our subdivision, or in our area, rather, but we do have this City Creek Master Plan. And the City Creek Master Plan said that it would preserve the trees, preserve the parks, and preserve the quaint neighborhood called the Canyon Road Residential Pocket. We ask and thank you that you've done that with your decision to slow down, make the water department negotiate, make the water department consider modern technology, and reduce the footprint on the park and preserve the park. How does this affect property values, or how could it protect property values? First of all, if you help us make the pump smaller and keep the park, I don't think you're going to have anyone in the neighborhood expect that you compensate them. But let me tell you how it has been known to compensate them. Noise, 11%. Pump house out front, your front door, no precedence. I don't think the city's ever approved that. Hazardous waste in your community, 15%. Not to mention a Phase 1 environmental report if there is a chemical spill. Trees, 7%, although they're not our trees, so I don't know that we can really expect that. Views, a city view is worth 9 to 12%. We essentially lose a city view if we lose our park. Thank you for what you've done.
Time.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. We would like to call Cindy Cromer.
It's really strange how things work. I bet you had no idea when you took that straw poll across the street that you were creating affordable units this summer. But you did, because you freed up a lot of my time. Thanks. I can do what I do best. Okay, so my name's still Cindy Cromer. In the last 20 years, I've survived 6 major land use battles in our historic Liberty Park. In all 6 cases, what was in Liberty Park today is an alternative to what was proposed initially. 3 of the 6 petitions were approved by the Landmarks Commission and granted a certificate of appropriateness. In one case, Jeff Niemeyer was standing outside in this hallway when I told him about the approval of the Landmarks Commission. Jeff said that the project wasn't necessary. That was my favorite story because Jeff took care of everything after our conversation. Last fall, I wrote up the stories about projects in our historic park. It's really challenging to write about things that didn't happen. No one keeps track of the information if it didn't happen, and nobody complains about alternatives that work. People don't even know that what they're enjoying in Liberty Park is an alternative. People think that alternatives will be more expensive than the original proposal. If we look at the 6 examples from Liberty Park, the opposite is true. City departments did spend funds on proposals that were never constructed, but the alternatives were less expensive in each case when you factor in the collateral damage associated with the initial proposals. Of course, there was the project that was unnecessary, the one that Jeff took care of. The current U City building in Liberty Park is another example. That historic building needed to be renovated anyway. The initial building that the Anderson administration proposed using was scheduled for demolition. It's cheaper in the long run to work on a building with a future. So we already have a bunch of alternatives in Liberty Park, and I can show you that they were cheaper than the initial proposals. I'm asking you to consider that there could be alternatives to the budget item for the 4th Avenue well in City Creek that would be less expensive, and I will explain to you in a letter why the initial proposal cannot be the correct one every single time. But it takes some math, and I can't do that here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cromer. Mr. David Bauer wishes to speak. David Bauer?
Dave Brewer.
Nope. David Bauer.
Oh, wait, nope. Here he is.
Yeah.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name is David Bauer. I live at 225 North Canyon Road. I've been in Salt Lake for 5 years. I've been living in the avenues in Capitol Hill. I love going to the parks. It allows me to feel a sense of freedom. My great uncle, Mike Cedar, is a World War II vet, and there was a park named after him in Casper, Wyoming. Memory Grove has a lot of fallen soldiers who died for our freedom to have a sense of what it feels like to feel peace, tranquility, and reverence for these mothers who planted over 300 trees in this area. It's important to remember and honor the history of this quaint and calm and beautiful neighborhood where hundreds and hundreds of people visit daily. The Salt Lake County ordinances 19.0 or 19.20.010, the general purpose is to promote safe, environmentally sensitive development that strikes a reasonable balance between the rights of and long-term interests of property owners and those of the general public. In Chapter 19.72.030, Section D, it states the development is consistent with the purposes and intent of the policies, goals, and objectives of any applicable plan and applicable community general plans as amended. There are a lot of general plans, general master plans for Salt Lake City, and some have been revised, updated, and amended. The City Creek Master Plan has not had any revisions, updates, or amendments. If you read the master plan, there's a paragraph in there that's so beautiful, and it says, the historic homes and the quaint residential pocket environment along Canyon Road are unique. Policy for this area is to preserve and enhance these homes and the low-density neighborhood atmosphere. The large street trees should also be preserved. I'll just...
Time.
Thank you.
Mr. Bauer. We would like to call Catherine Williams.
Hello, and thank you for your earlier decision. My name is Catherine Williams Seiler. I am a Canyon Road resident and supporter of City Creek Parks. I believe I speak for all park supporters in that I would like to draw City Council's attention to the budgetary analysis conducted by Hansen, Allen, and Luce, April 12th of this year. The report details the budgetary implications of various alternatives. It did not perform an economic analysis of the pump house and alternatives. A budgetary and an economic analysis of the park are two very different things. While a budgetary analysis looks only at the impact to the finances of public utilities, an economic analysis would examine the value of the well and the park, taking into account money invested into City Creek Park, bringing the creek above ground, the 4th Avenue stairs, response to the tornado, etc., to determine an economic value of the park as green space. A financial analysis would also examine potential impacts to the value of surrounding homes, as well as the more subjective value of green space for recreation, tourism, etc. A proper economic analysis would look at the full space for recreation, for full financial impact of the project. While a study like this may not conclude to not build the pump house, it certainly would provide a monetary value which could be applied to the project to shrink the footprint, soundproof, and make architecturally appropriate and mitigating other impacts to the green space. Failure to conduct this analysis neglects the current value of the park, its attributes, and the surrounding properties. Furthermore, Salt Lake City Public Utilities does not own the park, nor have they paid for the park's construction, renovations, and revitalization following disasters like the tornado or the 4th Avenue stairs. Therefore, when Salt Lake City Public Utilities invests a minimal amount to create their pump house in a thoughtless way, it diminishes the investment made into the park over the years. The funding to make City Creek Park a beautiful gateway to Memory Grove was substantial. The additional funding to update, maintain, and restore it over the years has been substantial. And I just urge you to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams. We would like to call Evan Smith. Welcome.
Hello. My name is Evan Smith, and I'm here to speak about the proposed design of the 4th Avenue Pump House. We, the residents of Memory Grove, believe that the proposed pump house design is not compatible with the historic character of the surrounding neighborhood. We believe the building's materials and forms are distractingly modern and give the public a false impression of the building's purpose as a functioning pump house. Though we understand that there could be stylistic distinctions between new and old buildings, we believe the pump house is not a creative solution bridging the gap between contemporary and traditional forms. None of the early 20th century architectural elements that define the Canyon Road, Memory Grove area are reflected in the facade of the building. Because the new pump house will encroach on open green space in the park, we believe it should be as small as possible and maintain a low profile among the few remaining trees left in the park. Unfortunately, the pump house's pattern of contrasting light, dark colors, along with smooth and rough surfaces, create an attention-getting effect that is more desirable of a retail store on a commercial property than a city park. The overly modern pump house design is inappropriate given its location and gives no clues as to its purpose. Nowhere on neighboring structures do you find rock-filled gabion cages, steel marquees, or fenestration patterns found in the proposed pump house design. These materials and design elements do not reinforce or complement the surrounding area and consequently draw unneeded attention to a structure we believe should be small and discreet. We believe that a new structure erected at the mouth of a historic neighborhood should reference design elements from existing buildings that reflect the historic context of the neighborhood. We believe it is possible to create a small, simple pump house that combines contemporary forms together with more historic architectural elements. We, the residents of Memory Grove, feel a responsibility to the people of Salt Lake City and its visitors to protect the legacy and vital green space of Memory Grove that our city has put so much time and money into conserve. We hope that you will consider delaying the funding of this project until the design is consistent with the historic nature of Memory Grove City Creek Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We would like to call Lini Noyes. Or Linnea Noyes. Can you state your name, please?
Linnea.
Linnea, okay. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. I am really happy to hear about the decision that was made earlier. One of the points I was going to make was the importance of designing the pump house specifically for the space it's going to occupy, and of course have concerns about height, footprint, noise, and all of that. I also wanted to suggest that if funding is insufficient, to explore the engineering and design alternatives, that additional funds should be sought by whatever means possible. Improvements in stewardship in the City Creek and Memory Grove area began in 1902 and have been a priority until the present day. The form or the paper I handed out just lists some of those items, and where I had funding information, I included that as well. I also wanted to point to the strong commitment to stewardship on the part of Canyon Road residents. People who live in our neighborhood are invested and involved. It might be tempting to think that concern over the pump house strictly reflects self-interest, but on the contrary, I believe our community cares a great deal about protecting the soul and unique historical character of this area, not only for themselves, but for the considerable number of people who walk, ride, and play here on a daily basis. There is a generosity underlying the choice to live in a neighborhood defined by so much public use. So please do this renovation well and continue the stewardship of this amazing area. There is an authentic benefit to the community now, and looking forward to making sure that all structures in the historic park are in keeping with the goals and visions for the neighborhood and the green space corridor linking the central business district of Salt Lake City with City Creek Canyon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We would like to call George Chapman.
Okay, let's talk about park rangers. Amy, did you know that the skate park has a problem with drugs? So don't worry about park rangers or police with guns there. We're more worried about drugs, and most of the houses around that park have been broken into. People want cops with guns. Okay, don't worry about kids going up to a cop. They do it all the time. How many really care about this? I mean, this is ridiculous. You actually were fighting about it. You complained about, or were concerned about the demographics of some of the people, which indicated that cops are intimidating. Well, if cops are intimidating, why did they go to the Pride Festival or Pride Parade? Why are they participating in Pride Parade if they're so intimidating? We want cops to be involved with the community. We want community policing. So please support park rangers out of the cops. There shouldn't be a problem with that, please. The sewer and water rates are going up, doubling in the next few years. Well, 3 years ago, I think you decided they were going to double 3 years ago. Now you're going to double them again in another 4 or 5 years. So that means you've increased them 4 times in less than 7 years? Come on. I think you need to have a bigger discussion about this. I know we need better water treatment, but I'm not so sure we need it with phosphorus and all that other stuff. This is ridiculous. 4 times is way too much, increasing water and sewer rates, way too much. Police salaries, I don't understand why you're working on a budget when you have an IACP report and the 911 audit. You should be studying that first. According to that report, you need 133 more cops. You promised us 50 new cops with the tax increase.
Thank
Remember?
you, Mr. Chapman.
We have no new cops. And you need 22 more police dispatchers.
Time.
We don't have them.
Thank you. We would like to call Cameron Williams.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Before you start my time, can everybody hear me? I just want to be sure. Okay. Thank you for the time today. My name is Cameron Williams. I work at a company called Domo out in American Fork. I'm the director of diversity there. I'm also the president of the Utah Cultural Trust and a board member of the Utah Black Chamber of Commerce. I only tell you that to establish a little bit of credibility. I'm here to ask for your support of the Jazz and Roots Festival coming up in early September, with the support of Tiffany and our brown cloud that we've brought together here. Diversity is important in this city, right? We all come to. we all know that that's been a major theme of what's been going on in Salt Lake City and Utah County and whatever you want to look at. And you know, I'm not going to present to you that you should support the Jazz Festival to make people of color or minorities just to feel good. I'm presenting to you that this is a bottom line investment. You know, it is statistically true that companies that are more diverse are 30 to 40% more likely to succeed and do better in business. Cities are the same way. We're losing business right now because we can't prove and show that diversity is here. The students that are coming in out of college, they would have been here for about 2 months that are new hires coming into the city. They can come to the Jazz Festival, see a different side of Utah, see a different side of what we show from a diverse perspective, and retain diverse talent, retain top talent in this country, and help elevate our businesses, whether you're talking about small businesses, whether you're talking about the Goldman Sachses of the world, or the major companies that we have here. We need to establish that, and that's why we need your support as we move forward, not just so that we can have a good time and get back to our roots and show ourselves and our children what we came into and what the music that we even listen to now has come from. But we need your help so that we can establish good business in Utah and in equity across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We would like to call Jennifer Brown.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Jennifer Brown, and I am a resident of Mill Creek. I would like to address the public utilities budget. I have a concern about it. In the executive summary, it talks about supporting growth. I don't think that supporting growth is explicit in that budget. I don't think it's transparent. And I'd like to talk about an issue of fairness, because that growth is not benefiting me, and yet with those enormous rate hikes, I have to pay for it. That's not fair. When I look back at 2003 water rate study, they talk about growth, and they said growth pays for itself. How have we gone from growth pays for itself to now suddenly I have to pay for growth that has nothing to do with me? How did they pay for growth? With impact fees. And I'd like to know why we're not continuing to use impact fees for new users, especially for the people, the developers, who are making a windfall off of densification in Salt Lake City and causing a number of problems, among them sewage, but also conservation issues, which are not actually in your budget, were addressed in the 2003 water study, also in the 2009 water study, but not now. And obviously, with that kind of densification, conservation is going to be a major issue. And guess what? We're going to have to pay for that, too. So anyway, my comment is I would really appreciate, hopefully, that you might look into reinstigating an impact fee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown, we would like to call Bernie Hart.
Busy time. It's kind of late to have you start thinking about something and adding something to your budget, because I guess this all should have gone through the mayor. But I'm hearing at the work session some of the oversight and funding and people questioning funding existing programs and things that have been funded in the past and just continuing because we did it in the past and really having no data as to show that these programs are actually impacting problems. The State Utah Medical Examiner has hired a forensic psychologist to study the suicide issue. And that study and that work over the last few years has shown that many of the programs, and it's obvious because the suicide rate hasn't gone down, aren't working. And if the city could consider something like that, an expert in the field that actually looked at programs and the success of the programs in an independent way, and attach that to any future funding, I'd appreciate it. And the funding oversight and whatever, it troubles me that people keep coming back for money and the city funds programs when the Miller Foundation has $5 million out there begging for people to come and use it with a matching grant. The programs were successful in meeting the needs of our kids and meeting the needs of people on the street and meeting the needs of the citizens. The good citizens of Salt Lake City would be pouring money into those programs. They're not, obviously, because the money is still sitting there. I would like this council to take the leadership role, maybe in partnership with the legislature, to start doing more oversight of the programs that exist to help our kids. It's not there. We need it. That should be the first step in being responsible spenders and caretakers of city funding. And I would like to suggest that programs succeed first before they ask for more funding. They shouldn't get it just because they exist and they set the model for the past without proof that they're actually helping kids or helping people on the street and addicts and the mentally ill. They shouldn't get funding, or certainly shouldn't get more funding just to show they work or have a chance to work.
Time.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Good luck.
Hart. We would like to call Winston Seiler. Mr. Winston Seiler.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'm Winston Seiler, I'm a resident of Canyon Road. I don't at all question that the Salt Lake City Public Utilities is doing what they think is in the city's best interest for clean, reliable water from a facility that is safe for their workers. But my concern is that Salt Lake City, the public utilities priorities do not fully take into account the other values of the city, the residents, the value of the green space, and the future of City Creek Park. And so I'm really excited about City Council's ongoing role to influence public utilities in their decision-making. I really believe that you can have two very different outcomes if you take a pump house that you put into a park as opposed to you have a park where you design a pump house. I think that you can have two very different outcomes with the same design elements and the same ultimate accomplishments of the project. So how should City Council be engaging public utilities to ensure the best design for the next 100 years in City Creek Park? Think small, silent, and appropriate. Elements regarding small elements have been removed, but the design of the pump house has not changed appreciably since the first designs. Engineering prioritizing preservation of the green space can develop a creative solution that can further shrink the footprint significantly, but still reach the design elements that are needed. Regarding silence, my understanding is that the currently acceptable noise level is 65 decibels at the pump house property line. Here's what 65 decibels sounds like from a meter. So. Well, that's 81, so that's a little, 72. So it's the sound of a conversation. So we can see why silence is important. Regarding the pump selection, we must ensure that the pump house noise preserves the character of the green space. And finally, appropriate. Let's make sure that the small and silent building is appropriate to the historic nature of this neighborhood and the overall City Creek master plan. I'm thankful for City Council's willingness to engage with public utilities, as well as public utilities' future efforts to make the best pump house possible for the future of City Creek Park and Salt Lake City. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saylor. We would like to call Georgiana Halverson. Welcome.
In regards to the change in water fees, I just want to make this one recommendation, and I'm hoping that the City Council can do something. It wouldn't cost anything particularly to put in a building code that centrally located water heaters. I don't know if, there's probably nobody in this room that hasn't experienced running the water for a long time before you get hot. And if they could just centrally locate water heaters or have two in places, then we could probably save a lot of water just by having that. And it wouldn't cost hardly anything. Thank you. Oh, and my name's Georgiana Halverson, and I live at 838 East South Temple.
Thank you, Georgiana. We would like to call Sharon Franz.
Hi, I'm Sharon Franz,
Welcome.
and as of April 25th, we own a property at 212 North Canyon Road. So that's 6 weeks if I shade on either side of that. Our history begins, though, a lot longer ago. My husband's grandfather proposed to his grandmother there, and I was proposed to there, and I got married at Memory Grove. That park holds a very special place to us. As we have grown up and invested in properties, we have tried to make decisions on the properties we purchase that we would live there and that we're proud to own them. We have been looking for a property on Canyon Road or in that area for 15 years now. We've lost 4, finally got one. As we're going through the final walkthrough on this house, there's signs all over our neighborhood about this 4th Street pump project. So I go to find, oh, they must have thought about this. For me to change a window in my house goes through, I think, 4 people at least. I would suggest that we relook at what the Public Utilities Company has done. It looks like one person and one company has made the decision that's going to affect many of us. As I've counted around our short neighborhood, I think all of us are here. All of us are saying, no, stop this. Please listen to us. Help us preserve the beauty and the special place that this has become to all of us and will continue to become. On one of our proposals, there's a Sanborn fire insurance map. 1909, if I remember right. Those trees are tinier than my, than my arm. And now, if you go look at those, and I hope all of you have gone and walked, at least been there, sat on the benches and listened to the birds and the squirrels and the dogs. And putting a pump house in that area will change. We'll just alter it to where it can't be brought back. It's a permanent change. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to call Shane Franz.
Thank you very much. So Shane Franz, as my wife mentioned, probably some of the newest property owners there. And I told my wife after we got married someday I'd like to get her a home there. And, well, we finally did. But it'll be for my little girls someday who are here sitting with us. Boy, there's so much I could tell you, but 2 minutes just isn't enough. Folks, I'm an electrical engineer. I have a master's degree in systems engineering. There are just so many things wrong with this proposal on so many levels. Since it's the budget meeting, let me focus a little bit on the concept of sunk cost. I'm sure you recall that or familiar with that, where you have something, you continue to use it, it's not quite right, but we're going to stick with it, and we're going to keep pouring money into it. Folks, if this is going to last another 100 years, I think we need to look at alternatives, and there are a lot of alternatives. Anyway, I'll supply some options in a letter, but there are alternatives within 300 feet of the existing well that probably could be easily tapped and would mitigate a lot of the issues. So anyway, thank you very much for your time, and maybe just wrap up that Memory Grove, we wanted to be there in the area because it's just a gem of the city, and we'd sure like to keep it that way. And we put a lot of our life savings into buying this property and wanted to try to help contribute and preserve. So that's why we did it. So thank you kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Franz. We would like to call Howard Peckerman. Peckman. Peckham. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't know whether this is related to all the new things that are going on, but our water quality at the house has really gone down. The pressure's low, the taste is bad, and this is on about 33rd South, just above the boulevard. And I don't know whether anything has been changed in that area, but I'd sure like to have somebody take a look at it. The water tastes terrible, the pressure's down, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, point of personal privilege.
Yes, go ahead.
If I can just make sure that there's a staff person that could talk to Mr. Oh, there is one. Oh, look, he's going to be talked to. So
It's Department Director.
Never mind.
Effectiveness. All right. So is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right. Welcome. Would you please state your name
My name is Rod Miller. I'm a longtime Salt Lake City resident. And last fall, I came before the City Council with a request concerning the usage of City Creek Canyon during the period of the deer hunt. As of now, bike riders are excluded from City Creek Canyon for the entirety of the deer hunt. The large numbers of bikers who would enjoy a beautiful fall ride within the canyon far exceeds the handful of hunters who now take advantage of the present designation. I requested that the odd day, even day designation for canyon usage be reinstated during the deer hunt period with bike riders eligible for canyon rides on odd days. And has the City Council considered my request and/or come to a decision concerning it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? All right. If nobody else wishes to speak, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer item to a future date for action.
Is there a second? Right, it's been moved by Councilmember Wharton and seconded by Councilmember Mendenhall. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Next, all grant items B14 through B21 will be heard as one public hearing. All right, we would like to call Tanya Chapman.
Hello, my name is Tanya Chapman. First off, I'd like to apologize for my attire. I was actually going to training to be a volunteer at the Writing Center at the community college, and I saw the cameras and saw what was on the agenda and said, oh, well, maybe I'll go over there. So I used to be a victim's advocate, and I obviously would not wear this to court normally. But anyway, I have a master's degree in social work, and I also have a child with a disability, and I don't live near the 4th Street area, but I know that that park in particular seems to be like very calming for him, and he has autism and he has Tourette's syndrome, and he has a very bad seizure disorder. And he honestly, he has a lot of auditory problems. So like sometimes when we can't calm him down, we take him there. So please listen to that neighborhood, and please listen to me. I think no matter what spiritual tome you take, that place is sacred. I guess unless you're like, I don't know, never mind. I'm here actually to ask that you possibly consider adding more victims advocates. That's not that many. And I have a couple of friends that have worked in that profession before, and as I said, I worked in it too, but I didn't work in this, I worked for California. And I just know that we need more people. And I was just hoping that maybe you'd be able to open up a couple more part-time positions or another full-time position. If you do, I'll take it. But that's very important. And then I just wanted to touch on U City. I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't think U City is awesome. And I don't need to bring you statistics because you already know those statistics. It's helping.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. All right, is there anybody else who wishes to speak? No? Okay. If nobody else wishes to speak, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer items B14 through B21 to a future consent agenda for action.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Wharton and seconded by Councilmember Rogers. Is there any other discussion? Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Right. There are not potential action items under Section C. And then next, we are at the comments section of our agenda. Are there any questions of the mayor? or Patrick? Nope.
I'm good.
All right, well.
Glad you're here.
Oh. Okay. These are for later. All right, well. I don't see Charlie. No? Okay. So thank you, Patrick, for being here. We are at item D2. We'll be taking general comments, and I will call people based on the comment cards that have been turned in. All right. Okay. Just read this part. Okay.
Unfinished business?
No,
No,
hold on.
no,
we're
we have a confusion here.
You're good.
Okay. Okay. So we'll call Jim Webster.
Weber.
No. Webster.
Oh, Webster. I thought he said Weber last time.
Yeah, I'm Jim Webster. I live in Yale Crest, and
Welcome.
47 years ago, I studied at the Harvard Law School with a guy named Charles Haar. He wrote a law called NEPA, National Environmental Protection Act. And I don't think we've really made much progress since then. You know, my initial comment about regressiveness, I think, has been reiterated by a number of people tonight. I wanted to pass out these photos. Where do I do that? These photos are the photos of my house. As you recall, a month ago, I said that I had paid $850 for an inspector to inspect the solar installation at my house. He neglected to go on the roof, and as a result of that oversight, there was a leak that was caused by the construction people, and that subsequently caused another significant amount of damage in the house. I've subsequently had to pay for a roofer to come out and solve that problem. I've yet to pay for the person to come out and do the drywall, which is estimated at about $1,200. But my point being is that we just don't seem to be making a lot of honest success with respect to sustainability and green initiatives. We talk about it a lot, but when you're charging the kind of fees that you're charging, and I haven't had any success whatsoever in getting any sort of compensation, and there must be hundreds of people that paid that excessive amount before you decided to reduce it to $200, and then all of that money goes into general fund. There's just really something wrong with that picture, and but I do want to say something in terms of positive. I understand that you did approve funding for Warm Springs. My great-great-grandfather built the first industrial facility west of the Mississippi in 1847, and so I'm glad that there's some recognition going into that as well. You're gone. Thank you.
Thank you for comments. We would like to call George Chapman.
You ought to give a medal to Bernie Hart, who pulled himself out of the hospital for tonight, just a comment to you. And he's going right back into the hospital.
Wow. Well, here's the medal.
That proves how much he wants you to listen to him. Please listen to him. You need to do something about the East Bench fire hazard. Scrub Oak needs to be pulled out, and you've effectively told the residents there, too bad. That's wrong. Please do something about the fire hazard on East Bench. Again, I think you should push on the IACP study and also the dispatch study. Let me emphasize this, because for priority 1 calls, to call in and have an officer told to go someplace can take almost 10 minutes. That's how bad it is. You need to add more dispatchers. You need to add more cops. There is only one lieutenant, or Anna, Aaron, and Amy. There is only one woman above the grade of sergeant. One sergeant, that's it, in the cops. It's because of salaries. So if you have a woman officer and all these other departments are trying to hire women, you're going to lose. You need to increase the salary for everybody. Please, before you do the budget finalization, study the IACP study and the dispatch audit. Those are really important. Please. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. We would like to call Mr. Bernie Hart, the recipient of the medal. Thank you for being here.
Last time I ever told George anything. I know. I thought I'd share something. Usually I'm here complaining or not complaining, pointing out things, advocating for different things. But this week, we work with the homeless, and I usually don't come here talking about us. I talk about a problem because I never think it's appropriate for somebody to brag about themselves. Their work has to speak for them. But this week, for the last month and a half, we've been functioning at the library and at the police station. And about 6 weeks ago, probably even longer, close to 2 months ago, I started backing away from the police station. And there's a young woman, not a young woman, 50-year-old woman, who was homeless that has been with us for a while. And she is dealing with PTSD from a lot of abuse in her life. And we have people in our program. We never ask anybody to leave. We accept anybody, anytime, anywhere. No exceptions, none. And at the library, there's a lot of difficult individuals to deal with, and they're always being asked to leave. And same thing from wherever, all over this area, the Library Plaza. And she volunteered, and part of the PTSD, she didn't like the crowds, but she stayed outside all winter and worked with everybody that got banned from the library for behavioral issues. So you can imagine she was working with, if you want to call it the worst of the worst, or the most difficult people in that area. And she took over 2 months ago. She was working with, when it rained, snow, she was out there on the lawn here or around. She took over the program at the police station. She started with 11 people, of those people that are difficult to deal with, campers, drugs, all the, whatever you can name. And she came to me yesterday, real proud of herself, it was yesterday, and said we had 29 people yesterday. For the last 2 months, she's been running it with 2 other homeless people, running that whole program herself. I've intentionally stayed away from it. Her name is Maria. And I want Maria, we just got some state funding. She's going to be our first hire. She's going to be the first she's going to run our women's program. She's going to be one of the leaders. So I just want to create a model for success that other people can sort of emulate or try to emulate and see what happens. So
thank you, Mr. Hart.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak tonight? Right. We have no new business items. We're now at the unfinished business regarding amendments to an ordinance relating to dogs in city parks and public spaces.
Madam Chair.
Yes?
Maybe. I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending section 8.04.390 of the Salt Lake City Code relating to animals running large, and section 15.08.070 of the Salt Lake City Code relating to the interference with animals or fowls and control of animals.
It's been moved by Councilmember Luke and seconded by Councilmember Johnston. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Moving on to item F2, which is regarding a resolution authorizing approval of an amended interlocal cooperation agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation and Salt Lake County, providing for Salt Lake County to provide animal control services within Salt Lake City through September 30th of 2019. Look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt a resolution authorizing approval of an amended interlocal cooperation agreement between Salt Lake City Corporation and Salt Lake County, providing for Salt Lake County to provide animal control services within Salt Lake City through September 30th, 2019.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Johnston and seconded by Councilmember Mendenhall. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. We have no city business under consent, and this concludes our formal city council meeting. Thank you for your attendance. The city council meeting stands adjourned. Hold on.
That'll wake us up.
Wake up.